What is going on, ProGuides family? My name is Renox, and today we have a great video for you guys. Today, we are going to be talking about the do's and don'ts of aiming and how you can help reinforce good aiming habits. We all know that everyone tells you to find a sensitivity or settings that work for you, but today we wanted to focus a bit more on the topic of aiming itself. But before we talk about all that, you know what time it is. It is of course time for our question of the day. Today's question is, do you train your aim? Even if it is just for a few minutes a day, let us know down below how you keep your aim crisp or why you don't practice if that's the case. Personally, I try to train my aim for at least 30 minutes each day just to make sure I don't go out of form. I just do basic training in the shooting range and more targeted practice in an aim trainer like Kovacs or Aim Labs. Alright guys, I think that's enough talking about. Let's dive into some things that you should know about aiming. For our first topic today, we wanted to cover the two most common aiming styles, those being wrist aiming and arm aiming. Wrist aiming is where you keep your arm more or less still and move only your wrist to aim with your mouse. Players who wrist aim are more likely to have a higher sensitivity and be a bit better at flicking fast but not accurately. Arm aiming is where you move your arm more than you move your wrist to aim with your mouse. Arm aiming tends to be better in most cases for a few reasons. Firstly being because it will help your body stay healthy. When you're aiming with mostly your wrist, you're putting a lot of strain on a very small part of your body, which can lead to RSI or repetitive strain injury. This can be mitigated with some ergonomic options, but these options are usually not very well suited to gaming, and so you could see a pretty significant decrease in your play. With arm aiming, while the potential for RSIs are still there if you don't take care of yourself, you will notice it becomes a lot easier over time and won't cause the same pain or discomfort after long play sessions. If you ever notice any pain or discomfort in your wrist or hands, especially during a practice session, just take a break even for a little while and just let the discomfort go away. Even if you don't care about your body, another reason to switch to arm aiming is just the better overall performance. When aiming with your wrist, you tend to have a somewhat limited range of movement, leading to the high sensitivity of being able to flick and do other fast options. Since you have such a relatively small amount of space to move your mouse when wrist aiming, your flicks have to become very precise as there is little room for error. When arm aiming, your sensitivity will tend to be lower and at the same time give you a bit more margin for error in your flicks. It won't just improve your flicking though. Since now you move your arm instead of your wrist, you can more reliably track targets through different situations. Now, all that being said, we are not trying to say that you can't aim with your wrist, and in fact, there is a very useful technique called micro-flicking. As the name implies, it's just very small flicks, and this is where your wrist aiming can really come in handy. You can train your wrist to be very precise in this range of motion, so if you miss a bigger flick or simply need to readjust your aim to someone's head, micro-flicking is a lot easier than trying to use your whole arm to readjust. This just goes to show that you can't use both styles for everything, but arm aiming has a lot more benefits and more use cases overall than wrist aiming. For our second topic today, we think it is important to cover the topic of grips for your mouse. Don't worry, this one will be quick. There are three major grip styles that have been popularized over the past few decades, these being palm grip, claw grip, and tip grip. Players will put a lot of time into debating what grip is best and which one will give you better speed, and while yes, adjusting your grip to be a bit more secure on the mouse will probably be better in the long run if you find that that is an issue, but overall, find a grip that is just comfortable and stable for you. As long as you're not doing anything too crazy like gripping your mouse with 2 fingers or only using your palm to hit left click, you'll probably be okay. As we said, just make sure you are comfortable and you aren't going to give yourself an injury from using it all day. I've seen people hold their mouse in some pretty wacky ways before, and man, let me tell you, if you have your arm at a 90-degree angle to your hand as you are using your mouse, you should probably stop that. Do you want an RSI? Because that's how you get an RSI. If you insist on using one of the 3 grips that are popular today, stick with either palm grip or claw grip. Tip grip is great if you really like to jitter your mouse around, but not so much for gaming. But hey, if one of you out there wants to prove me wrong on that, feel free. Yes, finally, our first actual game skill for the list today, and only 2 topics into the video. We have gone over crosshair placement before, but today we want to expand a bit more on what we mean and give you guys some even more great examples. So for those of you unfamiliar, crosshair placement is the act of placing your crosshair as close to where an enemy can or would be to shave off those fractions of a second of moving your mouse, which can cost you in high level and even mid-level play. Mastering crosshair placement is actually surprisingly easy once you take the phrase, put your crosshair where you think their head is going to be, literally. Let me explain. If you know that you are on the same elevation to your enemy, then you should be keeping your crosshair at head or body level height. Then try to imagine a person standing at the place where your opponent would peek and aim at their head. We get that this is easier said than done, but an easy trick to consistently line up your crosshair with enemies' heads is to use your teammates and objects in the map as a reference. If your teammate is right next to you, try lining up your crosshair with their head to make sure it's lined up properly for the same elevation. If you have a teammate at an elevated position, take a second to position your crosshair on them and then where they could peek to start building the muscle memory of where to hold your crosshair on all these different angles. After you do this enough times, you will start to realize you can visualize and predict where people's heads are going to be before you even know where they are. And this is how you see so many professional players transitioning so smoothly from corner to corner, their crosshair always landing at headshot height. This is where another part of crosshair placement that we haven't talked about yet, but is a bit more decision-based than what we were talking about previously. While crosshair placement is mostly about keeping your crosshair at head level, it also includes keeping your crosshair close to where enemies can peek or appear from. While sometimes this is simple or obvious, if you are swinging an angle, you want to keep your crosshair close to the wall and be ready to shoot anyone that appears. If you're pushing into a hallway or corridor, you want to watch the end of the place to make sure no one pops out to take your head off. What about the more difficult decisions though? Like to keep your crosshair trained on catwalk or mid from top of mid on ascent. These angles where it is possible that players are on both angles make it difficult to decide, but we do have a tip for you to figure it out. If you come to this fork in the road, think about what is the more likely play. Someone pushing mid or someone pushing cat? And also, how have your enemies been playing that game? Normally, I would always keep my crosshair on mid in that situation, but if I was deep into a game where the enemy kept pushing catwalk a lot on defense, then I would definitely swap over to watching that instead. If you want some help or advice in improving your crosshair placement or anything that we were talking about in this video, then be sure to check out ProGuides.com where we offer some of the best Valorant coaching. We have coaches online 24/7 who are just waiting to help you improve and reach the rank of your dreams. So visit the link in the description or ProGuides.com to learn more. If you want to talk about things you should definitely do if you want to improve your aim, warming up before practices and games is definitely a must. There tends to be a lot of confusion around warming up, as a lot of people tend to treat warm up and practice as the same thing, so we're going to be breaking down how you should be approaching these warm-ups. The first thing you should know is warming up is not going your hardest for 20 minutes straight and then hopping into a ranked match. That wasn't a warm-up, that was a stress test. A real warm-up is slow and deliberate, focusing in on a single aspect and repeating it until you feel comfortable and then moving on. For instance, you can warm up your flicks, then your counter strafes, then your crosshair placement by doing 3 different exercises. As you are doing these exercises, it's good to briefly go hard, but then to tone back down before you expend too much energy. This will help get your body ready for those intense clutch moments where you need to control that adrenaline rush and focus in on the game at hand. It will also give your body and mind a chance to adjust to some of the stress that you're about to put it under. Properly warming up can also clear your head before a game. If you've ever felt foggy or a bit sluggish before hopping into a ranked match and then realizing that you were playing pretty bad, it's probably because you forgot to warm up or didn't warm up properly. Try to dedicate some time every day to warming up before you practice as well. Practicing can put even more stress on your body and mind, so warming up before a practice will help you get better results out of it. When you're warming up your aim, focus on your 2 main pure aiming skills, flicking and tracking first, and then move on to other skills that you need for aiming, like counter strafing or crosshair placement. If your flicks and tracking already feel good before you start warming up your other aspects, you will notice it will go a lot smoother and you'll have to spend a lot less time warming up before you feel like you are ready. Just to clarify, the warm-up doesn't need to be long either. It can be only 5 or 10 minutes if you're about to hop into a ranked match. Either way, just spending that few extra minutes can save you hours or even days in the long run, so put in the little bit of effort now. For our last tip today, we wanted to cover something that we are sure a lot of people already do with dedicated aim trainers, but it is still important to point out the importance of targeted practice. While deathmatch is a lot of fun and can be a good warm-up and practice tool, it is only if you make it so. It is up to you to make sure that you are doing the practices that target what you are trying to focus on if you want to improve fast. While general practice is all good and well and will help with some things, it will generally take too long in a lot of situations, and so targeting one skill at a time to practice and hone will not only see that skill develop more than you probably thought, but you will also start to develop an idea for what it takes for you to learn and develop a skill, so the next time you go through that process, it should be a bit easier. Make sure you practice all relevant skills before you try to hop into a ranked match though, so you aren't completely cold in a game. This is where warming up like we talked about earlier comes in handy, and warming up before your practices like we talked about will help prevent this problem if you are the type of person who doesn't like to practice everything in one day. Well everyone, that is all that we have for you today. If you liked this video, then be sure to drop a like and consider subscribing if you enjoyed the content. We upload new videos like this one every single day, and the best way to stay notified of that is by ringing that notification bell. Don't forget to check out ProGuides.com either to gain access to some truly amazing coaching. Remember to stay safe out there, and I will see you all again very, very soon.